stats is in?
A woman wanted to hand this to Mr. Mosseri as a gavel.
Oh, yes, yes.
Not for me, it's
No,
not.
no.
Sorry.
It's not ticking.
No, it's not.
Can you open it up out there? Open it up out
I
there.
know what it is.
I actually thought it was a gold bar that could take care of all of
No,
our
it's,
financial needs.
Is it Godiva chocolate?
All of our financial needs have been resolved.
This was, she must have,
You obviously knew what it was.
right. So you just were,
She was waiting for me, I was walking in. She was
she didn't want to stay?
having difficulty walking in.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for forwarding the gift. Well, now that both Mr. Jones and Mr. Tarr are here, Senator Tarr wanted me to make note that he beat you to a meeting.
No, I was on time. He was early.
Well, we invited
Must
to
have
the,
it scheduled wrong in his
we
calendar.
invited you to the meeting. I'm sure you're probably as frustrated as we are. We're approaching our April town meeting, which is the first Monday in April. We adjourned to a date certain. We picked 3 dates. And we're the date that I think it's the Monday the 8th of June, and that's when we're going to reconvene our meeting. And we had hoped by then we would be able to present the budget to the town, that at least we had some feel for the amount of money, state aid, that we would be getting. Turns out that we started our revenue forecast in October, and we've made, I've lost track of the numbers of iterations, but even at the last one that was made just a few days ago, the revenue forecast has come down. So the questions that we have, where are we with the State House? What do you see happening? The latest bad news, obviously, is reduction of Chapter 70 for this fiscal year, 2009, of, I think it was $680,000 roughly. And my understanding is that the school department, working in conjunction with Finance Director Ken, filed for some form of a grant that would provide funding to close the fiscal year short of that amount of money. Is my understanding correct on that? Is that your understanding?
I think relative to FY09, the last supplemental bill that the governor filed, part of it solved was that Chapter 70 would be reduced. I think it's in the aggregate of $412 million.
Right, it's 10 point something percent, I believe, of
Would be backfilled with federal stimulus dollars, so that the towns would receive exactly what they were slated to receive on the cherry sheet of Chapter 7. That's my understanding of the way he's proposed to do it, which obviously the issue with it, or the problem becomes that it's essentially bringing money that might have been available in an out year or further out,
Right.
bringing it forward because it's a relatively short time frame. And really the single biggest set of payments left for the Commonwealth between now and the end of the fiscal year is a fourth quarter local aid payment. And not a lot of appetite, actually any that I've seen, for people to say, oh, well, we can sell the rest of the problem and just pay the local aid payment. So that was a piece of it. And a piece of it also, where some of us saw was some of it sooner than ready in is because of just cash flow. The amount of cash accounts to make payments. Although I heard some checks not being deposited today, but I haven't tracked that down.
Well, my understanding was, and there was some published information that came from, I think, the Department of Education.
for it once.
Thanks, Brad. Mr. Chairman, so I'll walk you through real quick what I handed out. One is just sort of a Chapter 70 stimulus, and then the local aid thing from FY08, FY09, pre-9C, post-9C, and then sort of where the various iterations are at. Chapter 70, obviously, and I don't want to jump on Bruce's, but obviously the Senate's proposed a lesser number, and I think that came a little very late with the revised revenue, basically on the eve of going to print. So I don't know how much analysis was done of it. And you can kind of see across the way, and happy to ask any questions. Then there's the latest DLS cherry sheet based on the Senate Ways and Means proposal, Governor's House one, and the final. There's a sheet here that talks about net cherry sheet funding, sort of historical back to FY 2000, as well as gross receipts, and then on the bottom of the chart is assessments. Then there's one that just kind of focuses less graphically more on sort of the raw numbers. Then there's one that reflects a budget amendment that we tried to do in the House. It's got a lot of votes, it was unsuccessful, and we're just going to talk about some. And sort of some of the state figures of where we're at, because I appreciate the chairman's concerns relative to revised revenue. I think that kind of graphically demonstrates how many times we've had to revise revenue in the state. And, you know, the old adage is that, you know, it rolls downhill, and having sat on that side of the table for a long time, the local municipalities are downhill. We're downhill from the federal government, so we're trying to get answers to stimulus. Money's not coming in as quick as it could, so forth and so on. Then this was a primer that was handed out, education funding from Massachusetts. Then there's a copy of the fiscal municipal special commission municipal relief report. And then I think there's just a house handout just for updating the contact information. So we've gone through a number of revisions this year, but the last one puts us at about $3 billion below what the budget was predicated on. And I sympathize with the difficulties that creates for revenue. We're using two different revenue numbers for the House budget and the Senate budget. The Senate's is probably more rigorous. The problem is how we sort of agreed on one in January, and that's what the governor filed off. I don't want to say I don't want to paint it as a ray of hope, but I would say that the Senate will be done. Again, I don't want to jump on Bruce's comments, but my understanding is done with their budget this week. And hopefully that'll give us a pretty good set of bookends for where local aid is at, to make a recommendation to you all to be able to recommend to town meeting on the 8th. We'll be done then, and I'm assuming we'll have a conference committee appointed long before the 8th. We won't be done though. But it is frustrating, and I appreciate that frustration, because the numbers keep changing. They're not, and unfortunately they don't change sort of up and down and up and down. They change down, 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 yeah. And that's particularly frustrating. I mean, it'd be a lot easier if we would come in and say, oh, we're going to change, they're going up by $1 million. Then I think we're probably not quite as upset with the changing numbers. It'd be a little easier to absorb.
But, Mr. Chairman, I don't want to lose your question, and I think part of what's going on here is that to the extent that we're backfilling with federal stimulus dollars, there's a need to chase those stimulus dollars both through IDEA and through Title I to make sure that they're available to make the backfill, and I think that's the exercise that the school department is going through, and I'm sure that Greg will be joining in that exercise as well. And one of the things that we want to let you know is that we're here to assist you with that. So as those applications are being made, we very much want to know the numbers that are being requested and the format that's being sent in so that we can try to move that through the process. Because one of the things that most characterizes the Economic Recovery Act at the federal level is the degree of uncertainty about where the dollars are going and what the rules are. And most of the education dollars have not been fully formatted yet. And so that uncertainty creates a problem, obviously, for your budget. It also creates a lot of concern for us, because we want to make sure that you get the amounts of money that you're due and what's needed to make your budget whole. So that federal component, now that fills the gap, is what's in play, and we need to make sure that we get it. And just to give you a sense of, and to follow on Brad's comments, between the time the House started debating the budget and when they finished debating the budget, roughly 1 week, our estimates for our revenue for fiscal year 2010 dropped by $1.5 billion. And so while the House's budget is based on a figure, I believe, Brad, it's about $19.5 billion, our budget is actually based on just less than $18 billion.
Basically $1 billion.
And so our budget is more, in some ways, draconian, because it reflects that change. And I wish I could tell you that we've seen the bottom of those numbers, but in honesty, I can't tell you that. And while we hope that what will happen is that by the time we're concluded with Senate budget debate at the end of this week, we'll have bracketed the range of where we're going to be. There is a possibility, and I don't think it's a strong possibility, but it's one that we need to acknowledge, that the conference committee may well be in the position of further reducing some of the accounts in the budget to reflect the new budgetary reality that may be in place by then. I would say I think your postponement of town meeting was a very prudent move. I hope we're able to give you more information based on that, but I think it will make it immeasurably easier to have a transparent budget and an honest budget than it would have been if you had done it earlier in the spring. And unfortunately, that's the case.
Well, I've got a document here it's dated May 14th, and it was sent to mayors, city and town managers, municipal finance officials, superintendents of schools, and school business officials from Gerald D. Perry, Director of Accounts, Department of Revenue, Jeff Wolferson, Associate Commissioner of School Finance, and Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. And then, here we have been struggling with getting a 2010 budget. Now we find ourselves with this 2009 problem. According to the information that was provided in this memorandum, Chapter 70 is being reduced for fiscal 2009 by $648,955. However, they're going to use the stimulus funds to fill that gap. And there's a requirement to complete all the documentation, which is a link on this document, and submit it by May 22nd. And I guess what I've heard is that money is supposed to come into the town before the end of the fiscal year. And in fact, ahead of the last state payment. Is that what you've heard too? I mean,
That would sound accurate. That document I haven't seen. It's sort of part of an ongoing frustration that we have being downhill to say, if you're going to email it to, you can email it to us as well. Cheap. It's free, actually.
well, that's my concern. Is we're getting different documents from different places, and it seems like
that would be consistent with what the governor's saying. We're gonna cut Chapter 70, but everybody's gonna get the exact same amount, but they have to go do some paperwork.
And that's basically what I was saying a few moments ago. So that reflects my understanding, even though I haven't seen that either, reflects my understanding of what the situation is.
I think the issue that we face is it's not so much that we have to deal with the problem. It's what is the problem? It seems to change regularly, and have we bottomed out at this point?
It's hard to say, Mr. Chairman, and that's what we're wrestling with in the midst of the budget process, just as you are. So we see these constantly, as Brad mentioned, declining revenue numbers, and we don't know if we're yet at the bottom. The Senate Ways and Means Committee held a hearing with a panel of economists about 2 weeks ago, and we were told to expect a bottoming out somewhere in the third or fourth quarter of this calendar year, and then we would begin to see a turn in the economy. The difficulty with that is even if we see that turn, the lag between a return of economic prosperity and the benefits of that flowing into state government through tax receipts is going to be at least a year and maybe much longer than that, particularly with regard to the capital gains tax. So we think that we'll start to see the bottom, and that will give us some comfort level that we're